Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this presentation on Arsenal Double Club at the language show this year. Very strange that we're all connecting via Zoom rather than being at Olympia like we are most years. I hope you're all keeping well. Just to introduce myself, my name is Steve Eden. I work for Arsenal Football Club. Some of you might think it's a little strange that someone from a football club is presenting in a modern languages or education setting. I'll explain the context behind that now. So it's what I call the best kept secret in the whole of the football industry. When you think of football, you think of the matches, the players, the transfers, the money, the competitions, everything that comes with football. But what many people don't realise is that pretty much every football club in the UK and overseas as well, they do lots of work in their community, and that will look very different, between the clubs. A lot of it is based on delivering sports programs, education programs, social work programs with local young people, and they do it because football clubs have a real privileged position in the community, in that they can engage and connect with people that perhaps don't engage and connect with many other people in their life, be it their parents, teachers, or whoever. So we have a real platform, given our reach, to influence people's lives for the better. And we do that through the delivery of our various projects out in the community, one of which is Arsenal Double Club, which uses Arsenal and football and the appeal and the enthusiasm, the passion that comes with supporting the football team or just following football in general, honing that and using it to engage the school pupils with learning a language. And the languages we offer are French, German, and Spanish. The project started in around 2006, so it's been going for quite a long time now. And it started at a time when it was no longer compulsory for GCSE students to study a language at GCSE. It became optional at that time. So the project was launched back then, originally aiming, it still is, this is still the aim, but we've branched out a little bit more. But the original aim was to target those Key Stage 3 students, upper Key Stage 3, Year 8, Year 9, to give them a really engaging, enjoyable experience of learning the language, to hopefully increase the chance of them taking it as an option at GCSE. So that's still very much our aim, but we have branched out into Key Stage 2, and some might argue we touch Key Stage 4 and even 5 sometimes. But I'll show you the resources later, and you can make up your own minds what level you might use these resources with. So what I'm going to do now is, before I start my presentation, I just want to do a few quick housekeeping. If you move your mouse or your cursor or touch the screen if you're on a tablet, some options will pop up, and you'll find a raise hand button, which you can raise at any time during the presentation. There's also a chat box. If you want to put comments or questions into there, please feel free to do so. And what I'll do is I'll tend to all the hands up and questions in the chat box at the end. I'm just going to check the chat box now. Is there an option to watch these sessions at a later time? Yes, these sessions are recorded and they'll be sent to you afterwards. The music in the background is disturbing. I haven't got any music playing. I'm sorry, I don't know where that's coming from. If anybody else could perhaps advise whether they've got background music as well, that would be great. But that's a little bit out of my control. I don't have any music playing, I'm afraid. Fabulous, no music. So I think it's just you, Fran, I'm sorry. I'm also now going to launch a very quick poll, just because the content that I show you, there'll be some stuff in French, some stuff in German, some stuff in Spanish. And I'd just like to understand what the sort of most common languages are in the room, so that might influence which videos I show you. So I'm going to launch a poll now. If you could just fill it in very, very quickly, that would be great. That will help me to you know, show the right videos really. Just give you a few more seconds to vote. You can pick multiple languages if you're comfortable with a few. Okay, a couple more seconds, and I'll end it there. Let's have a look at the results. Pretty tight with French and Spanish at the top and German a little bit behind. That's, to be fair, that's kind of to be expected. We've got, like I said, we've got resources in each of those three. So what I'll do is I'll try and I'll show something in all languages at some point, but I might gravitate more towards those French and Spanish. So let me share my screen so we can start the presentation. Okay, so let's begin. Arsenal Double Club is a project at Arsenal in the community department. Like I said, that uses Arsenal and football to motivate and engage school pupils to learn a language. It's called Double Club because it comes in two parts. You have the classroom element, where we use Arsenal themed and football themed resources. And then there's the football element, which in the past, if you've seen Double Club in its early days, we used to market it as 45 minutes in the classroom, 45 minutes in the playground, like a football match, two halves of 45 minutes, where you do a practical session in the playground or the school field, linking the language into that practical session, so they can actually reinforce their classroom learning of the language out in the playground. It was great. It was a great marketing tool, but what we found is that sometimes it's just not practical or just logistically possible for a language lesson to be taken into the school, the sports hall, or the playground, or whatever. So we don't insist on anything. We still call it Double Club because it is just linking the language and the football. That's now what we consider the double element of it. But if you were to only use the classroom resources and not ever do the football, it wouldn't stop you from taking part at all. But if you can engage the pupils with some practical activities, which I'll show you later some examples of, that can only sort of boost their engagement. The important thing is that all of our resources, or at least the vast majority of them, are linked to the national curriculum. I don't want anyone here to think that we are trying to brainwash pupils across the country with a load of football jargon that they're never going to need to use. There's some of that to keep it exciting for them. They'll, you know, especially if they are football enthusiasts, they'll be curious to know, how do you say this, how do you say that? So there is some of that, but by and large, we're talking about the resources being a real value added to what you're already delivering in the curriculum. And I'll show you how we do that later on. The key thing for us, as I said, with the GCSE uptake kind of origins, the best outcome for us is motivation. We're not here to create A-star linguists. Great if that happens, but you know, we're not going to take the credit for that. That's you guys as teachers. But what we can do is try to help you in terms of engaging them, getting that hook of their attention into the language, and we do that through our football themed resources. At Arsenal, we're very, very lucky to have such a diverse squad of players, both in the men's and in the women's team. Particularly pleasing in the women's team, actually, because if you go back just even 5 years ago, the Arsenal women's squad was largely made up of British players, and what we're seeing now in recent years is more and more overseas international players coming, which obviously then allows us to tap into their linguistic capability. So in the men's and the women's team, we've got players who are native speakers of French, of German, of Spanish, that we can use as role models, not just from a sporting perspective, but from a language perspective as well for the young people. The resources are suitable for all learners. You know, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, is this just for boys?" And I understand the intention behind the question, But if you look at football now, you go to Emirates Stadium on a match day, you'll see a wide range of fans. It's not like it's all men or all boys. Perfectly normal now for women and girls to engage in football. And not just women's football either. People think that you go to the women's games and you get female crowds, and it doesn't work like that anymore. Football is a much more open crowd and sport for people to follow. So yes, the resources are suitable for all learners, and especially not just football fans as well. You don't need any assumed knowledge of Arsenal or football in general to teach with these resources or to learn from them. And hopefully that will come out later on in the examples of the resources. And when you've finished running the program in your school, you've used the resources, you may have done some football or may not, the cherry on the top, the incentive at the end, is the opportunity to bring your pupils on a school trip to Emirates Stadium for what we call a language day, which I will come on to later on. So I'm going to start by just taking you through some of the classroom resources. In the past, we called them primary school resources and secondary school resources. And what we found is that some primary schools teach language as well, some don't. Some secondary schools, they get nice continuity from the primary, so they've done French and they're going to do French from year 7 onwards. But then you also get some secondary schools that offer a different language to the primary school, so they're effectively, starting from scratch. So we've taken away the age references to our sort of resources, and our beginners range is what used to be the primary stuff. But because we're calling it beginners, it's now possible for that to be used in a secondary school environment if they are beginners level. So we've got beginners and we've got intermediate. I'll start with beginners. The beginners range of resources includes a pupil workbook, which you'll see in a moment, one for each pupil, some accompanying teacher's notes, which obviously walks you through all the activities in the pupil workbooks, but also gives you ideas to expand on them. There are some online materials that support the workbooks as well. Those are all referenced in the teacher's notes and explain how to use them. And there's a coaching guide, which is the piece I told you about with going outside or in the school hall and doing a practical session. There are lots and lots of activities you can do that incorporate the language into think of a PE sort of football games kind of session to make the learning kinesthetic rather than just being in the classroom. So I'll show you all of that in a moment. As I said, it's all linked to the curriculum. So those are some of the regular topics that you might expect to teach anyway, but you'll see that the resources linked to those as well. And those are the costs you can see there, £4 per pupil for the booklets, and that includes all the teacher's notes and online stuff as well. Or there's a deal for a class of 30 for £100. All of that goes straight back into the project. The community department at Arsenal is the only department that's non-profit. So we're not expected to make a profit. It's all that sort of revenue from resources and the language day and stuff, that goes straight back into developing the project. So there's the front cover of the beginner's booklet. That's the French one, obviously, and the German, Spanish one. All the resources at beginner's level are pretty identical. So whatever I show you in French will be the same in Spanish and in German. So there's the front cover. You'll notice there at the bottom, we've got our partners for French, the Institut Français. We have fantastic partners for each of the 3 languages. The Goethe Institute and UK German Connection are our partners for the German resources. And for Spanish, it's the Consejería de Educación. So really good expert partners to give us that quality assurance really for the language side. We bring the football, they bring the language, and together you get Arsenal Double Club. Here's the first chapter in the beginners, French booklet. And hopefully you can see it's engaging, it's colourful, it's attractive. And the first page is simply just introducing yourself. Hello, my name is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. He's our most famous, recognisable player, native French speaker, although he represents Gabon at international level. So he's saying his name, where he comes from, and asking you about yourself. And at the bottom of that page, on the left, you can see some speech bubbles to fill in the same information for other players. On the right-hand side, there are 2 ways to interpret this activity. If you can't see it, it's quite small, but if you can't see that at the top, you've got 5 footballers, each with speech bubbles, and they're just saying what position they play. So je suis gardien, je suis défenseur, and so on. So saying their position, I'm a goalkeeper, I'm a defender, I'm a midfielder, I'm a winger, I'm a striker, and so on. The first way to interpret that is you're teaching the vocabulary for football positions. Yes, that's partly true, but what I would like you guys and anyone using the resources to interpret this more as is not so much teaching the football vocabulary, but teaching the verb to be. I am, you are, he is, she is, and so on. It's just the football context that disguises what's actually just a lesson on saying to be in the different forms. And that's kind of the formula that you'll see throughout all of these resources. There is real meaning behind all the activities that to support what they would do anyway in school. You'll see there's male and female players there, and that's great as well for linguistics, as we know that there'll be different ways to say I'm a goalkeeper depending if you're a male or a female, and that's all explained on this page as well. At the bottom, there's the opportunity for pupils to create their own team, which could be real players, it could be made up players, it could be friends in their class. It doesn't matter. The main thing is they're practicing the verb to be in whatever language you're learning. Another extract from the book. On the left, you've got some football vocabulary. Again, are we learning football vocabulary? Yes, but we're also learning articles, le, la, le, der, die, das, el, la, las, los, and so on. You're learning adjective agreement with the verb. So, for example, in French here, we've got le carton jaune, le carton rouge. In German, that would be die rote Karte, die gelbe Karte, and so on. So making sure that the adjective agrees with the gender of the verb. And there's all sorts of other ways that you can reinforce kind of grammatical concepts in this activity, where they're simply just matching the number of the picture to the list of words beneath. On the right, this is the numbers activity, using the numbers on the player's shirt. So hopefully you can see it's all stuff that they would do anyway, but linked to football, which from the pupil's perspective maybe feels a little bit different. It feels, it almost disguises the fact that they're doing a regular language lesson. And just throughout the resources, there's more and more examples of this. You've got colours on the left, countries and nationalities on the right. Again, male and female players included. This extract here is from the teacher's notes. Now, if the pupils were to just complete the booklet, the pupil booklet from start to finish, like a comic book, it wouldn't last very long. The teacher's notes is what turns it into more of a structured lesson that lasts over a period of time. This particular activity in the teacher's notes is to build on what you saw there with the numbers activity on the right. So you filled in all the gaps there, you worked out the numbers of the players' shirts, but this activity, first of all, takes it away from the writing and the reading, filling in gaps in the book, and makes it into an oral activity. And the task here is to challenge pupils to play the role of the stadium announcer who has to announce the names of the players to the crowd before the game. And there you've got, this is the German version, obviously. You've got some simple structures for them to use. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Emirates Stadium. Today, for Arsenal, we have number 1, Bernd Leno, the goalkeeper. And you can mix up what level of vocabulary you ask them to use, but they've got to announce 11 players using the numbers. It's good to get them to put some, charisma and personality into their delivery. Sometimes when I've done this, I've found kids engaging and cheering and booing and stuff. It makes for a really fun environment for them, just to what is ultimately practicing the numbers and getting them to speak a little bit. So there are ways there you can see on the bullet points to differentiate it based on their level. You could include substitutes, you can include the other team, or you could even announce a made-up team if they don't know all the players. It really doesn't matter. The main thing is that they're using the numbers there. They're speaking in a context that is, half real, and it's just creating an engaging activity in the classroom. This is another extract from the teacher's notes where we're moving away from a traditional language lesson where you're learning vocabulary, grammar, and so on. This is now more around the point of languages. So here you're asking pupils to come up with possible reasons for why footballers might need to learn a language. And that might include if they move abroad to play in another country, communicating with teammates or managers from other countries, working in the media or after their career's finished. And Again, that might be quite an exciting discussion where they think they're talking about football, whereas actually this discussion is very, very transferable into their lives and why language might be important to them for travel opportunities, for employment opportunities, for building relationships and so on. So we were quite keen to include this kind of strand to the program where the value and the importance of languages is covered as well. The other thing I'll show you with the teacher's notes, because it leads nicely into the online extras that I mentioned that support the resources. Hopefully you can see there on screen that that first line there, introduce and reinforce vocabulary by playing memory game using the words with numbers PowerPoint, and that last bit is in blue. Anything in blue refers to an online extra that will be on the website. You get a login for it, and then here's the instructions on how to use it. So this is basically just a memory game. There are all the beginners downloads on the website. They're all organized by unit and where they fit into the teacher's notes. And this is the words with numbers PowerPoint. What you've got there is numbers 1 to 10 and the vocabulary that they would have covered in the booklet already at the bottom. And all they need to do is you challenge them using that structure that was mentioned there. Welches Wort steht auf der Karte Nummer? Which word is behind card or shirt number 1 to 10? And they have to guess which word is behind each number. You can divide the class into 2, you can divide them into teams, you can, however you want, score points, whatever. So if we were to say which word is behind shirt number 4, and they might guess die rote Karte, let's click on number 4, ist die gelbe Karte. Click back. The next one, which word is behind number 7, they might say der Pokal, which is the trophy. No, it's a Tor, a goal. Go back, and over time they'll start memorizing which words are behind which number, and they can challenge each other. It doesn't have to be you challenging every time. You can get them to ask each other the question, and it's just a way to reinforce obviously numbers, some vocabulary. You can use any vocabulary, it doesn't have to be the football one, and a chance for them to again use the language whether they're questioning or answering in a fun, competitive way. This photograph here was taken at a primary school just across the road from Arsenal's Emirates Stadium. And this is a photo of some of the practical activities that I mentioned to you. And you can see there are our Spanish defender, Hector Bellerin, in the primary school, taking part in one of these sessions. And all they're doing there is practicing their numbers in Spanish. And have a look at the girl in the background, jumping for joy. That's the response that we're looking for in these activities. We want them to really enjoy it, to really connect with the language, so they've had a positive experience afterwards. And personally, I've never seen a child react like that to learning their numbers in any language. So here's the contents page of the coaching guide, which is all the practical activities. And hopefully you can see on the right-hand side, they are organized into topic. So if you've done numbers in the classroom and you want to do something outside in the playground, all you do is you look at the contents page, have a look at any of those games sort of in the green section there, and that will give you some examples of games that you can do to practice numbers, and likewise with colours, body parts, even farm animals. We've got some games for that. So this is what a session plan would look like. As you can see in the little green box in the top right-hand corner, it's the topic of numbers. The instructions are there, so you don't need to be a PE specialist. You don't need to be a language specialist, to be fair, to deliver this. It gives you all the setup instructions, what you need, what equipment you need, and how to organize the game. And this game is very, very simple. You number the pupils from 1 to, let's say, 9. You give pupil number 1 a football, and they all have to move around inside a square that you set up. And when you say go, they need to pass the ball from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, all the way up to 9 as quickly as they can, but they must call out their number to let the previous number know who to pass to. It can't be calling their name or just saying, yeah, pass to me, it's me. They've got to call out their number, so they're practicing the use of the number in a setting. And if you were to have a few groups doing this side by side, you can turn it into a competition. You can differentiate it by doing throwing and catching or passing with the feet. You can go from 1 to 9, 9 to 1, odds, evens, whatever you want. It's just a way to reinforce the numbers that they've learned in the classroom. Likewise, here's a body parts example of a practical session. Coach stands in the middle, pupils make a circle on the outside, and you simply throw the ball to one pupil at a time and tell them which body part you want them to control and then return the ball with. So it might be a header, it might be a catch, or you can choose whether you say catch or hands or whatever you want. It might be their foot. And you go around either in a circle or to random pupils to keep them on their toes, and get them to return the ball with whichever body part you call out. To make it more fun, you can do opposite. So if you're just doing head and catch, if you say head, they have to catch it. If you say catch, they have to head it. And that way it makes them think a little bit more about it. You can have them standing on their feet to begin with. If they get one wrong, they go down on one knee. Get it right next time, they go back onto 2 feet, or if they get it wrong twice, go down on 2 knees. There's lots of ways that you can mix up this game. So the coaching guide has got, you saw the contents page, there's lots and lots of activities that you can do practically. So there's it's the same slide as you saw earlier, it's just to reinforce the summary of beginners resources with the costs there. I'm going to move now on to intermediate, because this is very, very different. And like I said at the start, any hands up, any questions in the chat box. I can't actually see them while I'm presenting, so I will come to them at the end. But feel free to put your hand up or drop any comments or questions into the chat box at any time in the presentation. I'll come to them at the end. So on to intermediate. Like I said, this used to be secondary, but we've now called it intermediate, so that if you're a primary school and you've got really good high-level pupils for primary level, then you might want to look at the intermediate resources. The first key difference is that there's no booklet involved. It's all online. You simply sign up, you get a login, and the resources are all there for you to access. The benefit of being online is that we can post video content of our native speaking Arsenal players speaking in French, German, Spanish, like I said, male and female players, and that creates a really unique and engaging listening activity. To support the listening activity, we provide transcripts, worksheets that can be downloaded to provide a comprehension task. We also post lots of authentic texts, which is basically newspaper stories from around the world, all in one place. And there are lots of interactive PowerPoints, not too dissimilar to the one I showed you with the words and numbers game. Primary audience, I would say, is upper Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3, maybe Key Stage 4. I'll leave you experts in this sort of stuff to decide what you think is most suitable, but intermediate is deliberately broad to cover various key stages. And actually what you'll find is a lot of the activities can be differentiated to suit a different key stage. The other key difference is that they're continually updated. I know I've been in this job for far too long. I've been doing it for 10 years now. I'm an Arsenal fan, and when the kit changes or a player leaves or we get a new player, my first reaction is always, what have I got to update on the resources, and not how does this benefit Arsenal? That's how I know I've been in this job too long, but there we go. And the other key difference, hopefully you can see there, is that these resources are completely free of charge. There's very little production costs involved for us. It's all online, so we don't charge for accessing these resources. The language day is still possible. There's the cost there. I will come on to the language day a little bit later on. So let's have a look at some of the intermediate resources. Like I said, they're all online. So once you've logged in, you arrive on the landing page of the language you want, and all of the activities are listed on the left-hand menu there that you can upload it up there for you to see. Here are the authentic texts. This is, I believe, the German page. And you've got the articles there, and above, hopefully you can see the bullet points there, some suggestions for how to use them. That will not be an exhaustive list. I'm sure you guys will have lots of other ideas of how to use authentic texts for whatever age group you're working with, and that's what they look like. It's basically an article from Spiegel, German publication, about the news, the big news of a couple of years ago when Arsene Wenger, after 22 years, left Arsenal. So that's an example of authentic text. You can do a number of things with that, as outlined there on the bullet points, but the aim is to have a selection of articles there for you to use based on the interests or needs of your pupils. Here's an intermediate Spanish activity. Hopefully it looks slightly familiar from the beginners section. Do you remember I had Aubameyang saying, hello, my name is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, I'm from Gabon, where are you from? Here in this intermediate version, you can hopefully see the step up. You've got, hola, me llamo Lucas Torreira, soy centrocampista, juego por el Arsenal. There's a lot more information and verbs that are coming into the intermediate resources. Underneath, instead of speech bubbles and gap fills, you've got a more extended piece of text where they need to write about themselves on the left. And on the right, you can see there's not just more information and more verbs, but it's not all in the first person anymore. We're talking in the third person now. And again, a more extended piece of writing where they have to write about their favorite player in the third person using the model that we've provided in the first person. Again, that could be a real player, it could be a made-up player, it can be a friend in the classroom, whatever they like. Here's an example of some of the video content. We tend to look at the curriculum, and the GCSE topics are, an easy one for us to base it on. We get the players where we think it will fit to answer some of those questions that the GCSE students would need to do. But we provide activities and transcripts so that they are accessible to lower down the year groups. Here we've got Aubameyang again, where he does an interview, a very short interview about his hometown. I think before I play the video, what I'll just say is that this video was, we told Aubameyang that this was for pupils who are learning French. So I think he tried to speak not too slowly, but naturally enough, but slowly enough for them to understand. And he didn't use too much slang or anything like that. So we try and get the players, they're not language teachers, but we try and get them to follow that if we can. But what we also have sometimes is content that we didn't create, maybe the media department at Arsenal created for fans or TV or whatever. And if a player has done an interview in their mother tongue, if we think we can adapt that for the purpose of a language lesson, we will get that footage from our colleagues in the media department. And that way it's a bit more natural, it's a bit more authentic. And obviously we pick topics that are relevant. So you'll see a mixture of that. But this one here from Aubameyang is with him knowing it's for a language lesson. So here's Aubameyang talking about his hometown in French.
Peux-tu décrire la ville où tu as grandi?
Petite ville de campagne, mais très chaleureuse.
D'accord. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a à faire là-bas, dans cette ville?
Pas grand-chose. J'ai surtout de la famille là-bas, donc je profite de les voir quand j'y vais.
D'accord. Et cette ville, quelle est-elle?
Laval.
Laval. Quelles sont les autres villes où tu as vécu?
Il y en a beaucoup. Il y en a beaucoup. J'ai vécu un peu partout en France, au nord, au sud, à l'ouest, pas à l'est, mais et aussi à l'étranger.
Et aussi à l'étranger.
Ouais.
Où est-ce que tu aimerais vivre plus tard?
J'aimerais bien l'Espagne ou les États-Unis.
D'accord.
Ouais.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
So that was the video content, and then, like I said, we try to provide activities and transcripts to go with it. There's an example of a simple comprehension task in French to accompany the video, and there'll be a transcript as well if perhaps you're working with lower ability learners that won't absorb all the information first time or second time from listening. They might want to follow it along the text form as well. Here's another example of intermediate resources is German. We're talking a bit more about grammar now and tenses. In German, there are some verbs where you use to have to say in the past tense and some you use to be. Pretty sure it's similar in French as well. And this here is our German or former German player, she's left us now, but German player Tabia Kemmer from Arsenal Women, who's telling a nice story after winning Olympic gold medal for football for Germany, where she uses a lot of different forms of the past tense. So I'll play this now.
Mein Name ist Tabea Kemme und ich bin 27 Jahre alt. Ich bin letztes Jahr im Sommer nach London gekommen, spiele seitdem für Arsenal Woman und habe vorher schon 10 Jahre in Deutschland gespielt. 2016 war ich bei den Olympischen Spielen und habe dort die olympische Goldmedaille gewonnen. Und mit dem Gewinn habe ich auch einen zweiten Traum von mir erfüllt. Und zwar habe ich mir einen VW-Bus gekauft, einen VW-Bus Bulli T2. Den habe ich quasi mit dem Geld, was ich von der Goldmedaille, die Sponsoring-Gelder bekommen habe, habe ich dieses Geld investiert, um mir einen Bus zu kaufen. Und das ist jetzt ein langwieriges, langlebiges Hobby für mich. Mit dem Van, den ich in Berlin dann gekauft hatte, bin ich letztes Jahr im September nach London getravelt. Bin 1600 Kilometer mit diesem Bus hierher gefahren. In Deutschland bin ich gestartet, über Holland, Belgien, Frankreich, dann mit der Fähre nach Dover. Bin noch an der englischen Küste entlang gefahren und bin letztlich hier im Arsenal Trainingsplatz angekommen und habe jetzt meinen geliebten Bus hier bei Arsenal.
So for the non-German speakers, Tabea was telling the story there of how she used her winnings from the Olympics to invest in that camper van that you saw there. It was a second lifelong ambition for her to have one of those. She bought it in Germany, drove it through Europe, across the coast to England before arriving at Arsenal. So just her telling that story in German. For the Spanish speakers, here's another example of intermediate resources. This is our midfielder Dani Ceballos revealing his animal dream team. Might sound strange, but it's a sort of fun, silly way to practice A, animal vocabulary, but B, to give reasons why you've chosen to have this animal as your goalkeeper, but based on their characteristics and so on. And then afterwards, they can create their own animal dream team as well, giving reasons and justification. So here's Dani's animal dream team.
Este es mi equipo ideal de los animales y mi portero es el pulpo porque tiene mucho espectáculo y pararía muchos balones. Mi defensa sería el oso porque es un animal muy fuerte y pararía a los delanteros. Mi mediocentro sería el tigre porque es un animal muy fuerte y además muy listo. Mi extremo ideal sería el guepardo porque es un animal muy rápido y creo que podría driblar a la defensa. Y por último, mi delantero ideal sería el zorro, porque es un animal muy listo y creo que metería muchos goles.
So he had his animals, he had an octopus in goal because he's got lots of arms to stop the balls and so on. And here's the kind of accompanying sheet that goes with it. The pupils write down the animals that Dani chose, and then on the right-hand side, they write down any reasons that they understood that he gave, and then there's another download where they can create their own version of it. Here's another example. This is also in Spanish, a simple game of Guess Who. There's a player sheet, so there's, like I said, no assumed knowledge. You don't need to know all the players' names and details, but there's some simple clues that come on the screen around one of these players. Again, just using vocabulary that should be fairly common: hair color, eye color, age, height, nationality, position on the pitch. There they all are together. They refer to the player sheet, and they'll hopefully identify that it was Leah Williamson based on the description. So with the intermediate stuff, there's loads there. There's the video content, which creates fantastic opportunities to listen and speak as well. It's authentic. If I've got time at the end, I'll show you some other stuff around phonics and cognitive activities, which is sort of tongue twisters and riddles, which can be quite fun to do as warm-up activities or maybe a fun lesson at the end of term. And then the downloadable stuff like the PowerPoints that I showed you, the worksheets, good reading and writing opportunities, and some discussion, as you can see. Easy to update, and key really in this current climate is that they're all COVID friendly. You can deliver them online on Zoom like I've just done. So there's the summary again of the intermediate package, free of charge to access the resources. I'm just going to run through quickly, conscious of time, the language day visit. This is only available to schools that have taken part either beginners or intermediate. We don't allow schools just to come for the day at the stadium. The tour is in English, but they have a quiz to complete as they go around on a clipboard that is completely in the target language. And the answers to that quiz are, they're based on the information that I'm giving in English or stuff they notice as they go around the stadium. I'll obviously give them all the information about the stadium, but they'll also get a real pep talk from me about why language is so important. I'll talk a little bit about my own experience and my career, how I went from being a young child that didn't really care much for languages to eventually go on to degree level learning languages and ending up getting my job at Arsenal, where I'm promoting languages, meeting the players, getting them to record these videos and so on. So these are all the different parts of the stadium that they get to see, the changing room, pitch side, the director's box, and there they are at the end with their certificates and prizes at the end of the tour. There's also the fun zone on the website, which requires no subscription whatsoever, so you could all look at this immediately after this call. The home learning section was just a response to COVID, really, to allow kids to do these activities from home without a teacher. Double Club Meets is quite a cool section where I'm interviewing different players about their language stories. It's quite an informal chat about their experience. Language Chat is for more in-depth interviews with different personalities from sports and the entertainment world about their language experience. Languages at Arsenal, bottom left, this is colleagues of mine at Arsenal who've got sort of jobs on the business side of Arsenal using languages. And the interview with Arsene Wenger there at the bottom, I'd really recommend using that in maybe NFL assemblies, options evenings, and so on, because he speaks really, really well about the value of languages. To get involved, just visit the Double Club website, www.arsenaldoubleclub.co.uk. There you've got some FAQs, some costs, some forms to fill in if you want to sign up, and of course the fun zone. I'm going to do my best now to get through as many questions as I can, because I know we've got to end fairly soon. Just have a look at them now. Okay, so what I'll do is there's quite a few questions. So what I'll do is I'll try and answer the ones now that are most relevant to the majority of the audience, and those that are more asking about a specific topic, then I'll get those answers in an email and have those sent out afterwards. Let me just scroll through the chat. There's quite a lot that's come through here. Presentation will be saved and made available to you. My contact details are on the website. There's a form you can fill in the contact section that will get through straight to me. There used to be an Italian version. We used to do Portuguese as well, but we had such low take up among the schools. So at the moment we're prioritizing French, German, and Spanish. Lots of nice comments here. We don't currently have an English language version. Our immediate target audience is the schools in the UK to learn French, German, Spanish based on the partners we have as well. But we have and continue to explore the possibility of English as a foreign language. Schools from overseas, you can sign up for the online intermediate resources. But I don't think our partners will ship to the booklets overseas, if that makes sense. So if you are overseas, then do feel free to sign up for the intermediate resources. Yeah, there's a few suggestions here for other languages to be included. I think I'll address a lot of these in email. So what I'll do is I'll write up a little summary of some of the questions that have come through. I'll get them sent across to the language so they can communicate them for you. Just conscious that I've got a strict 11:15 end, which we're at now. So sorry, it's been quite a rush with the questions. The website, one more time, is www.arsenaldoubleclub.co.uk. You can follow us on Twitter as well, @AFC Double Club. That's where all of our updates are posted. And thanks again for joining the call.